The cameras were rolling when Gloria Watkins reached across the podium and slapped Steve Harvey clean across the left cheek. Not a tap, not a play fight. A full open palm slap that cracked through the studio microphones and sent the audience of 214 people into a stunned, breathless silence. Steve's head turned, his hand went to his face, and then Gloria Watkins, a 61-year-old grandmother from Biloxi, Mississippi, with arthritic hands and a Bible verse tattooed on her wrist, crumpled to the floor of the Family Feud stage and started sobbing so hard her whole body shook. The producers cut the feed. The director stood up from his chair. And Steve Harvey did something he had not done once in 22 years of live television. He sat down on the stage floor next to a woman he had never met before that day, took her hand, and stayed there. What the cameras caught next would be watched 340 million times. That Tuesday morning, October 41, October 1, Stage 6 at Trilet Studios in Fayetteville, Georgia, had started like every other taping day. Two families in matching colors. Warm-up comics, the production assistant with the clipboard. Gloria's family, the Watkins team, wore royal blue. They had driven 9 hours from Biloxi in a rented van. Gloria's daughter, Tamara, had organized the trip. Her grandson, Marcus, age 7, sat in the front row of the studio audience with a foam finger he'd brought from home, already chanting his grandmother's name before the cameras had powered up. The 5 Watkins family members standing at that blue podium looked like exactly what they were, a tight-knit family who had scraped together enough vacation days to come have a good time on television. Nobody in that studio knew what was about to happen. Gloria had told her family she was fine. She had been saying that for 14 months. It had started with a lump. She found herself in the shower in August of 2020. She did not tell Tamara. She did not tell her husband, Raymond, who was already managing type 2 diabetes on a fixed income. She drove herself to the Biloxi Regional Medical Center on a Wednesday morning, told the receptionist she had an appointment, and sat in a plastic chair for 2 hours before a nurse explained her insurance. About a minimum marketplace plan she and Raymond paid $340 a month for, did not cover the specialist referral she needed. The nurse gave her a printed sheet with 3 other clinics. Gloria folded it into her purse and drove home. She called the first clinic the next morning. They were out of network. The second had a 4-month wait list. The third had closed during the pandemic. She spent 3 weeks calling every number on the Mississippi Cancer Coalition's website. 2 went to voicemail and never called back. 1 told her the procedure she needed was deemed experimental under her current plan and that she would need a pre-authorization that would take 8 to 12 weeks to process. She submitted the pre-authorization on a Monday. She got a letter 46 days later that said, "Claim denied. Insufficient documentation of medical necessity." She resubmitted. Another 41 days passed. Another denial. She was 11 months into this cycle when her daughter Tamara found the Feud application in Gloria's internet browser history and, not understanding any of what her mother had been living through, thought the game show trip would be a perfect surprise. Gloria let her plan it. She packed her royal blue shirt. She told Raymond she was fine. The night before the taping, lying in a motel room in Fayetteville with Tamara sleeping in the other bed, Gloria opened her phone and read the most recent denial letter one more time. 14 months. 6 submissions. Olin phone calls logged in, her notes app. Not one person had told her anything other than no or not yet, or please resubmit using form 1140. B. The lump she had found in August of 2020 had not gotten smaller. She put her phone face down on the nightstand, closed her eyes, and said a quiet prayer that was really just one word repeated, "Please." And then she'd put on her blue shirt the next morning, kissed her grandson on the top of his head, and walked out onto that stage with a smile. And that wasn't even the part that made Steve cry. The Watkins family played a strong game. Gloria was sharp at the buzzer, landed 3 of the top 5 answers in the opening round, and kept the audience laughing with a quip about her husband's cooking. They made it to fast money. Tamara played the first 20 seconds and scored 143 points. Gloria stepped up to the podium for the second round, needing 57 points to win the $20,000. She buzzed through 4 answers. The studio scoreboard ticked upward. With her last answer, the board flashed the total, 196 points. The audience exploded. They had won. Steve came across the stage grinning, arms wide, and Gloria turned from the board and nobody has ever been able to fully explain what happened in the next 3 seconds. She looked at Steve's face. She looked at the number on that board, and 14 months of held breath came out of her body all at once. She reached out both hands toward him, her right hand connected with his left cheek. Hard. There was a crack. Steve's head turned, and then Gloria's knees went. Steve caught her. It went down with her, right there on the carpet, one hand still on her arm. The studio fell completely silent. Not applause dying down silent. The kind of silence where 214 people are collectively holding their breath. Tamara vaulted the podium. Steve's security took one step forward, and Steve held up a single hand, and they stopped. He did not stand back up. He stayed on the floor. Gloria was saying something into his shoulder. Nobody could hear it at first. Then the boom microphone caught it. She said, I'm sorry, I've been trying so hard for so long. Steve sighed. Tell me. The real story hadn't even started yet. She told him. Not everything. She was crying too hard for everything, but enough. The lump, the denials, the Form 1140B she had submitted 3 times. The phone calls that went nowhere. The 14 months of smiling at Tamara and Raymond and little Marcus and saying she was fine. Steve sat on that floor and listened to every word. The crew had stopped moving. The director had not called cut. The other family, the Nguyen family in red, who had lost the main game, who had every reason to pack up and clear the stage, stood at their podium and nobody moved. One of the Nguyen daughters put her hand over her mouth. The boom operator, a man named Derek who had worked Family Feud for 9 seasons, was crying silently behind his rig. Steve let her finish. Then he said, Let me tell you something, Gloria. Let me tell you something. He paused long enough that the silence in that studio felt physical. 31 years ago, I was living in my 1976 Ford Tempo, showering in gas stations, eating out of trash cans. 3 years in that car. He wrote letters. I wrote letters I never sent because I had nobody to send them to. His voice dropped. I know what it is to be told no so many times you start to believe that's your permanent address. I know what that is. And I need you to hear me say this. Hey, look straight at her. You are not alone on this stage. Not for one more second. The studio fell completely silent again. But Steve wasn't done. He stood up. He helped Gloria up, straightened his jacket, and then he turned to the producer's booth and said 4 words that had never been said in 22 years of Family Feud tapings. Stop everything. Call legal. The director said later he thought Steve had hurt himself. The executive producer came down from the booth. Steve told them on camera, in front of everyone. He was not ending this taping until 3 things happened. First, they were getting a doctor to the studio to see Gloria today, not in 8 to 12 weeks. Second, he was personally making a phone call. Right now, on this stage, on this microphone, and everyone in America was going to hear it. Third, the $20,000 was going to Gloria's family, and he was matching it personally, making it $40,000, and it was going to be used for one thing. The producers looked at each other. Nobody said no to Steve Harvey. He pulled out his phone. He dialed. It rang twice. A young woman's voice answered, and he put it on the studio speakers. It was his daughter Lori. He said, Baby, I need you to help me find the best oncologist in Mississippi. Tonight. I don't care what it costs. I have a woman named Gloria standing next to me, and she has been fighting alone for too long. Lori Harvey said, Daddy, give me 20 minutes. The audience, which had been silent for 4 solid minutes, came apart. Not wild cheering. Something more fragile than that. The sound people make when something has been wrong for too long and suddenly something is right. But Steve wasn't done. It turned to the camera, not to the audience, straight down the barrel of camera 2, and said, If you are sitting at home right now and you have been told no by an insurance company, you have been told your treatment is not medically necessary, you have been told to resubmit, I need you to hear me. You are not the problem. The system is the problem. And we can fix it. He pulled a card from his jacket. Production staff said later they had no idea where it came from. And he read a hotline number on air. Calls to that number increased 4,000% in the following 48 hours. He addressed the Nguyen family last. He walked to the red podium, shook every hand, and said, "You played a beautiful game. Your grace tonight. What you just showed this woman by staying on the stage. I will not forget it." He announced they would receive $10,000 from the show's discretionary fund. The Nguyen family's oldest daughter walked across the stage and hugged Gloria. The studio fell completely silent for the third time, and this time it lasted almost 30 seconds. And nobody wanted it to end. Little Marcus, age 7, sitting in the front row with his foam finger, said clearly into the hush, "Is that man gonna be okay, Mama?" The crew lost it completely. The clip was uploaded to YouTube at 11:47 p.m. that night by a production assistant who had filmed the last 10 minutes on his personal phone. By morning, it had 12 million views. By Thursday, it had 89 million. By the following Monday, the counter read 201 million. The hashtag number Gloria and Steve trended on every platform simultaneously for 6 consecutive days, the first time in the history of social media tracking that a single non-news clip had done that. Outlets in 34 countries covered the story. The BBC led with it. A senator from Mississippi read the clip transcript into the congressional record. Lori Harvey delivered on her 20 minutes. By the following Friday, Gloria Watkins had an appointment with Dr. Patricia Mbeki, one of the top breast oncology specialists in the Gulf South, at a clinic in New Orleans. The lump was real. It was treatable. It had not yet spread. Dr. Mbeki said later that another 4 months of waiting would have changed that prognosis significantly. 3 months after the taping, Gloria finished her first round of treatment. She attended her follow-up appointments in a van Raymond had bought secondhand with part of the $40,000. 6 months after that, her scans came back clean. She drove herself to the Biloxi Regional Medical Center, the same building where she had first been turned away. And she walked in and asked to speak with whoever managed their patient assistance program. She spent 2 hours explaining what she had been through. They made 3 policy changes. Steve Harvey established the Gloria Hands Foundation, named for the moment those hands reached across the stage, within 60 days of the taping. In its first year, the foundation funded insurance navigation assistance for over 14,000 patients in underserved communities across 8 states. It partnered with 31 clinics. It answered more than 90,000 hotline calls. By its second anniversary, it had helped over 40,000 people access specialist care they had been denied. Steve sighed in an interview with People magazine, "The only thing I did that day was sit down. Sometimes sitting down is the bravest thing you can do." Gloria Watkins sits at her kitchen table in Biloxi now, on Tuesday mornings, and she calls people. Insurance holds mostly. People who have gotten the letter that says claim denied. She found the work through the foundation's volunteer program, and she has not stopped since. She told the reporter, "I know what that letter feels like in your hand. I know what it weighs. So I call people and I say the thing I needed someone to say to me, you are not alone, and we are going to figure this out together." Marcus, who is 9 now, has a foam finger on his bedroom shelf. It tells people his grandma slapped Steve Harvey on TV. He says it like it is the greatest thing that has ever happened in the history of the world. He is not wrong. That morning in Fayetteville, what looked like a mistake, an open palm connecting with a famous face on live television, was really something else entirely. It was 14 months of silence finally breaking. It was a woman's body doing what her voice had been too exhausted to do anymore. It was one person reaching across the distance between what is and what should be, and someone on the other side choosing to catch her instead of step back. Sometimes, the things that look like the wrong move turn out to be the only move that was ever going to work. If this story stayed with you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what comes next. Leave a comment and tell us, has someone ever caught you when you were falling? Because the people in this community share those stories, and someone out there needs to read yours tonight.